One of the newbies asked Aya, so if you're watching this, Aya, thank you very much.
Hi, Aya.
Everyone loves
I
Aya.
love Aya.
I need to get her on actually, talk about like...
Oh, she needs to be here. She's such a powerful woman.
Positive,
yeah, I love her.
She asked a question actually, so I'll kind of ask it you now. When the biggest thing about property, and this is what I was talking to the Fontaine brothers about, was your lows when you're constantly getting rejected, you're constantly getting beat down, even when you have a tiny bit of success. And don't get me wrong, in some respects, all business is like that. But property is literally when you've got agents on the side of the line and they don't fully understand what you're doing and you're constantly trying to sell. It takes a hell of a lot of practice. So the question that she was asking was, how do you remain positive despite all of the objections, all of the knockbacks and everything that comes with starting a property business?
Pretty simple for me. It's just that I remember why I started this. And the reason why I started property is because I used to be homeless. I was homeless at age 13.
Oh, wow.
And being homeless in a country that was in Germany, by the way, where you don't speak the language well and it's dead cold outside, and having to just go through bins to look for food, or sneaking into metros to sleep because obviously night is coming. I then thought to myself that one day I'll become the biggest property investor that would ever exist. And the fact that I have 2 daughters now as well, that's just like my strongest reason why. I just remember why I started this. 1, because of my daughters, and 2, because of all of this homeless that I see outside. Because it's funny, because I was talking to George, by the way, if George is watching this, I was talking to George about a week and a half ago, and I said to him, George, the reason why I want to do this is because I used to be homeless. I know how it feels like to sleep outside. I know how it feels like to not have a roof over your head and being seen as this little piece of paper. So that's what I remember. Even though I get these objections all the time, I just remember why I started.
See, that's incredibly powerful, man. 13 years old, being homeless, being in a country where you can't speak the language. Yeah. Did you have any sort of friends and family around in Germany at the time, or if you did, what was your relationship like with them? Or
so I was actually living with one of my aunts, and at the time, me coming from an African background, I don't know if I'm not talking for anybody else, but I didn't have a good experience living in a house, and some African people would say they would always use witchcraft as an excuse, I remember her husband tried to abuse me sexually, and I reported it to her, and she didn't believe me. And the next thing you know, I was asked to leave her place, and at the time I didn't have a lot of friends, but I knew a girl, Hannah, at the time. She was living in an orphanage, and me being the woman, the little girl I didn't have any money, of course. So I spent a few weeks outside, and then one day I was begging for money, and this guy gave me €2 at the time. And the first thing that came into my mind is like, okay, where's the phone booth? And I knew her number by heart, right? So I went into a phone booth. I called her. I was like, Hannah, I've been on the street for like a couple of weeks. Can you take me? And she's like, well, I can't really do it, because she was my age at the time as well. She's like, I can't do it, but I can sneak you in through the window. You can sleep in my bedroom, and I'll try and see if I can talk to someone. So that was the only one I knew at the time, and she saved my life, because I think she hid me in a bedroom for like 2 days, up until one of the staff kind of found out that I was there, and then they took me in, and that's how I ended up living in that orphanage for 6 years.
Blown away, man. Like I said, to be 13, to have everything go on at home, to be in a situation where, like, obviously your family didn't believe you at the time, forced you out, and your first €2 or €2 rather than spend it on food or anything was, I need to ring my friend and be taken in. And then obviously snuck you in, but then the orphanage took you on sort of anyway. What was it like from that period? What did you do from sort of like 13 and for those 6 years? Were you just sort of like bouncing around from like job to job? Were you just in the orphanage? What were you doing in that time?
I became a party animal.
Became a party
animal? Oh, definitely. Drinking massively, smoking, dressing inappropriately. I didn't have any guidance. You can imagine, because what had happened at that in that orphanage was that when I turned, I think 2 years later, when I turned 15, I was sexually abused, you know? So it messes you up. You know, your mom and dad lives 8,000 kilometers away, and you just have a roof over your head because someone else is looking after you. And you can imagine those staff, they look after you only during the day. During the night, someone is there, but it's not really there to look after you. So after that moment, I was messed up.
Yeah.
I was definitely messed up. Honestly.
How do you go from being, because obviously it's understandable the path that you took. It's only naturally so when you're put in that situation, you have all these bad things happen to you. It's almost hard to snap out and think positively because you've got so much sort of probably almost anger, upset, a lot
rage,
of rage, a bit of everything.
Yeah.
And often in our life, things such as the drinking, the going out, even the wrong crowds at the time is a little bit of an escape. But how do you snap yourself out of that downward spiral? Because obviously you're not partying now.
No.
You're not drinking.
No.
Do you know what I mean? How do you go from that and sort of snap yourself out of it and realize, well, you know what, I can actually do better than what I'm doing right now?
I think that was a time where my good friend, you know, she was living at home, of course, with her parents, and you know, she was doing good. And one day she invited me in, and her mom sat me down and started talking to me and said, "You're a beautiful girl. You know, you got so much things to do in life, and you can't be doing this. You don't want to die off of drinking or smoking. You know, you got to do better for yourself." So they started taking me in every weekend so that they can give me a family.
Okay.
And provide me with the love and affection I was lacking. So they had to sign an agreement between the orphanage and them to let them know that every weekend I will go to their place. So I will stay with Nadine and her mom from Friday to Sunday evening. And I think that saved me as well from doing a lot of BS on the street, you know?
Yeah.
And I believe a year before I left Germany, I became clean. You know, it's clean in a way where I stopped partying. I started running. I fell in love with sport. I was playing basketball. I was swimming. I was running. And, you know, I started reading books. And then Nadine, who was she's always been like this A student, right? Yeah. So I started following. I kind of like copying and pasting, right? Because she was doing so well. She's been a massive inspiration in my life. And when I left Germany, and had to go back to Africa, then relocated to England, I thought, I got to do something better. Yeah.
See, this is where I feel like I can sort of piece things together, and the audience probably will as well.